This happened to me when I was 18 years old. I was on a trip with my parents and a friend, whom we'll call Anna. The story takes place in Sweden during a road trip. Our plan was to visit a theme park and stay at a campsite, but we hadn't booked one in advance. The day arrived, and we reached the city where the theme park was located. Since we planned to visit it the next day, we needed a place to sleep. We had brought tents in our car, so my dad searched online for a nearby campsite. He found one that seemed promising and called to check availability. Unfortunately, our visit coincided with a major soccer tournament, and the campsite was fully booked. My dad called several other sites, but we couldn't find any that were reasonably priced and close to the park. Our only option was to find a spot in nature to camp overnight. We set the GPS to the nearest parking area in a forest to avoid parking fines. Eventually, we found a spot in a nature reserve. When we arrived, a few people were still around, so we asked if it was safe to camp there. A woman who was hiking assured us it was a good place and that there were no parking attendants. Based on that, we decided to stay in a small, secluded gravel parking lot surrounded by dense forest. A beach was about a 10-minute walk away. Initially, we considered setting up our tents on the beach, but something told me it would be better to stay in the parking lot. As we got out of the car to set up our tents, I noticed an old, abandoned-looking car parked further away. It seemed in poor condition, and no one was inside. I found it odd, especially since it was already evening, and there were no other people around. However, I brushed it off and helped my parents set up our tents. My parents shared one, while Anna and I shared another, placing them close together. After a struggle, we finally finished setting up. Anna and I made our tent cozy, watched YouTube, and ate snacks. By this time, it was around 11 p.m. Since we wanted to be well rested for the theme park, we decided to sleep at a decent hour. My parents were already asleep in their tent when Anna and I started scrolling through TikTok. Then, around midnight, we suddenly heard a metallic sound from the parking lot. It resembled a shovel scraping against gravel. We both froze in fear and whispered to each other, wondering what it could be. Too scared to peek out, we stayed silent and listened. The sound came from the direction of the abandoned car. Then, we heard what sounded like a shovel being tossed into a trunk, followed by the trunk slamming shut. Our hearts pounded as we sat in silence. Moments later, we heard the car speed off as if someone was in a hurry to leave. Feeling unsettled, I texted a friend who lived in a nearby city, telling him where we were. He responded with a chilling warning. The beach near us was notorious for organized crime and illegal activities. We had no idea about this before. Just as I was processing this information, about 10 minutes after the car left, we heard something that made our blood run cold. A loud, blood-curdling scream from a man deep in the woods. It was the most horrifying sound I had ever heard. I immediately texted my mom, telling her what we had just heard. When she didn't respond, I called her phone to wake her up. She finally answered, but told me she and my dad hadn't heard anything. She reassured me that it was probably nothing serious, but I couldn't think of any normal reason for such a terrifying scream in the middle of the night. Anna and I curled up under our blankets, frozen with fear. Every minute felt like an eternity. Then, the forest became eerily silent. That's when I heard something even more disturbing. Footsteps. Someone was walking around our tents, moving carefully and deliberately. Anna and I sat up, completely still, barely breathing. I quickly turned off my phone screen so its light wouldn't give us away. The footsteps circled our tent first, then moved toward my parents' tent before stopping near our car. Whoever it was seemed to be watching us. My heart raced, and I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. There was no reason for anyone to be out there at that hour. Then, headlights flooded our tents. The same car from earlier had returned. Anna and I instinctively lay down, trying to stay out of sight. Summoning the courage to peek through a small gap in the tent window, I saw the car door slam shut before it sped off once again. For a brief moment, I felt relieved. But 5 minutes later, I saw another vehicle approaching at high speed. It was a police car, heading in the same direction as the suspicious car. Nothing else happened after that, but we were too shaken to stay in our tent. Anna and I decided to sit in the locked car for safety. I stayed awake until around 5 a.m., keeping watch while Anna eventually dozed off. Exhausted, we returned to our tent an hour later and finally managed to get some sleep. We woke up around 9 a.m., still drained from the night before. I told my mom everything, and that's when she admitted she had also heard the footsteps. However, when the person was near their tent, she had also heard heavy breathing, like something out of a horror movie. She had been just as terrified as we were, but my dad had slept through everything. Without hesitation, we packed up our tents and left immediately. None of us wanted to stay there a moment longer. Despite the terrifying night, we managed to enjoy our day at the theme park. However, later that evening, curiosity got the best of me. I decided to research the forest where we had camped. What I found made my stomach drop. Just a short time before our visit, a man had been murdered in that very forest, stabbed to death due to gang-related deaths. Even more disturbingly, 2 men had gone missing from that exact beach and were never found. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Who let out that horrifying scream? Why was someone using a shovel in the middle of the night? And most disturbingly, was the person lurking around our tents checking for witnesses? I guess I'll never know.